Good morning. This is Arlan Suderman, Chief Commodities Economist at StoneX. It is Monday, March the 10th. We're opening the markets this week. A little bit on the mixed side. We're seeing some strength in wheat. Initially saw some strength in corn as well. Basically, we had seen prices collapse to the level where the cash market was very attractive to end users. And so once we saw a pause in the strength and that largely came a pause in the selling, I should say, and that largely came after the White House backed off and said, well, any of the tariffs on products covered in the U.S. Mexico Canadian trade agreement will be paused until April the 2nd. Then we saw that selling pause last week and end users starting to come into the cash market. Then we saw some speculative money coming in as well, particularly in corn and in wheat. That strength is a little bit more in wheat than it is in corn. And nothing that really impresses me at this point overall, but more some opportunists coming in to buy the break that we saw in the market. There's still a lot of concerns about the tariffs. And in fact, over the weekend, we saw President Trump say in a media interview that he may even increase the 25%. I think everything is complicated by the fact that we really don't have a functioning government in Canada right now. The previous government was ousted with a no confidence vote. Justin Trudeau was kind of a lame duck leader, losing the support of his party. And in fact, his party, the Liberal Party of Canada, has now replaced him with Mark Carney, a former central banker. So Carney will soon be taking office, trying to put together a coalition government, but even that'll probably be short-lived because sources within Canada are indicating within a few weeks he'll probably call for another election. Basically, the Liberal Party had lost a lot of support in Canada. Until that is, President Trump started talking about Canada being the 51st state of the United States. And then that kind of revived some fires of nationalism within Canada with that support for the Liberal Party. And so Carney'd like to take advantage of that new momentum, see if he can't lock in a government of support for the Liberals through this event. But in the meantime, what this leaves us with difficulty dealing with the trade war. The United States, I still believe, is trying to leverage Mexico and Canada to get them to help contain China. China, sensing that, I think, has stepped up the heat, putting 100% tariffs on Canadian rapeseed meal, and really tightening screws down a little bit more on Canada, saying if you're going to go along with, and citing really the 100% tariffs on electric vehicles instituted last October during the Biden administration. And so finally, China, just the whole timing of it suggests this is related to trying to stop what Trump is currently doing in trying to leverage Canada and Mexico against China. So things are getting more complicated. I still see Mexico moving in the direction of an agreement. I think they very badly need to have an agreement. And I think President Sheinbaum of Mexico has been acting very impressively in working with President Trump. But we need Canada to come along as well, and that may be difficult right now during this transition. So, as a result, the hope was, I think, by the White House that this would all be solved by April 2nd so they could focus on the reciprocal tariffs. But what's happening in Canada may make that difficult to happen. I initially thought maybe we'd have a trade agreement with Xi Jinping in China in the first half of this year, but I think he's digging in his heels now. And so it may be difficult to get an agreement before late this year at the earliest, the way things are currently developing. But for now, we're seeing some consolidation in the markets overall. The outside market seeing more pressure, worries that we're going to go into recession. That's certainly not good for the commodity world the longer term. So that's something we're going to have to watch. I think President Trump's real challenge now is getting the consumer back on board. He's got to do something to win the consumer. His State of the Union address or speech before a joint session of Congress, technically is the name of it, did poll well, but did it bring back the consumer? And that's yet to be seen. More time is required for that. But I think the initial concerns are that it did not bring back the consumer. If you don't bring back the consumer, you can continue to see this pullback of corporate America and expansion. You'll see layoffs. You'll see the headlines continue to focus on recession risks, and that in itself can become self-fulfilling and send us into a recession. So for now, the commodity market's kind of consolidating, but we're going to have to watch this, and that'll affect the protein market as well, which desperately needs the consumer there to pay these current prices. We did see some strength, late week strength last week in the product market for beef, and also in the cash market, and that supported the board early this morning. But even though that strength looks a little bit tepid at this hour, so that's my update to start the week, and hoping that the headlines quiet down a little bit for the rest of the week. So until tomorrow. I hope things go well for you and enjoy the coming spring weather.